Well, here we have it, friends. An episode divulging some important, basically, like, conclusions on a couple things, tying up a couple loose ends, as it were, with my previous musical project. I kind of logistically state a couple things on not only what I want to do with my art, but what kind of makes sense as well. As usual, there's some updates on future episodes. So, I don't know, without further ado, let's go. Let's let it roar.
stars, the effulgence of the moon, and the warmth of the sun, with the clarity of water and wind in the trees, with the courage of the lion. I am in this present moment.
Hello and welcome to episode 113 of Vault of Gem podcast. I'm Mickey GemInEye. Today, I'm finally doing something how I want to do it. I know normally I go into so many interface discussions and user software discussions and discussions about software interface and how to use it. Today I'm actually going to be able to talk about the music. This is Dire Muid. This is the current page and this is the current project. Previously, this channel was actually Pitiful Spawn, and that is no longer inactive. And that is also why I started the concept for this episode, because I haven't talked much about it really, and I have done a short on it, and I have done the basic overview of Pitiful Spawn as the project itself isn't active anymore. So because it's not active, what I would normally do if I'm doing software interface and user interface discussions is say, oh, here's what you would do. It's pointless. It's worthless to try to say like, oh, here's what you would do is you would take your project and then change it to something else. I'm happy when I get to do these episodes, when I get to point that out. I'm happy when I get to say that brief instantaneous acknowledgement before moving on, and then I can move on to what I actually want to talk about, and that is the music. I mean, the project isn't active anymore, so that's what I'm going to be doing this episode on, is that the project is actually not, unlike the podcast, how I keep saying that the podcast is the same thing that I was creating 14 years ago. In the same way, it's not in that same way actually. It's not the same thing. For the musical projects, it's not the same thing. So thus, my most recent release is a split. It is the actual split between Pitiful Spawn and Dire Muid, and those two different projects together on one album, on one compilation. As each song, and then it's kind of a bit of a mess right now how I have to organize everything, but for me it's not actually. It just looks like a mess because I have the concepts already fully formed before I even started doing anything remotely close to recording. So each of the songs and concepts that are set to be released soon, those each have their own place, and it's safe to say anything that is Pitiful Spawn is totally cut off. That's where I can get to my basic point that I'm trying to make here, is that anything released under Pitiful Spawn is never going to go any farther than it. It's going to stay as it is forever, and all the stuff that's set for the current project and the new stuff, that's what I will be focusing on. So what is the substance of my announcement here that I would be making other than that? Not much. I mean, there's really not actually much to talk about on this episode. I can't see this one being anything but a brief overview. However, it's still very important to emphasize that anything that's Pitiful Spawn is not going to be remade. I like it that way a lot too. I like it very much that nothing Pitiful Spawn will be remade. And if it is remade or remastered or reprised, anything that's reprised for Pitiful Spawn. I mean, it's a simple thing for me, as it stands right now, that I can do that reprisal and then put it back on here. So basically, what you're hearing right now are my thoughts and me brainstorming a little bit amidst all the AI machines doing all the brainstorming for you. I'm very much just like everybody else. I don't like it either, so I'm doing it myself. And what is the DIY aspect about the whole thing anyway? If I don't get episodes like these where I can just say reprisal remastering is not out of the question, but if it happens, it'll be on here. It'll be on this project. And meanwhile, as well, I have other projects to focus on. I have to do whatever this project currently can handle and can stand, and release everything out there, and then kind of leave that, sort of sigil that, and then focus on other projects that have their place in the other concepts that I have floating around. So, good pro tip, I guess, for everybody that can make use out of: get your concepts and then get those concepts fully formed. Anybody in my age group, anybody in my era, anybody in this category of music, anybody in this category of how much of a workload that they take on, do the fully formed concepts tactic before trying to go do anything else. Because really, anybody younger than me, they could just come up with the concept and then have it come out next week or next month. Realistically, maybe that's their realm, that's their domain, that's the millennial, centennial, Gen Z people. They can just do everything. They can just do everything instantly. They can just have their concept, and next week it's made manifest. So there you go. There you have it. It's it's definitely robbing them of the total enjoyment of the whole experience, unfortunately. But luckily for people like me and in my age group, I can direct most of my focus on people my age and in my age group, as I need to decipher who's got this much of a workload or not. Most people have day jobs. They're not just doing this full time. I'm doing this full time. I don't have a day job. Doing this full time. That's a heavy workload. And then at the same time, I'm still thinking about doing day jobs and all that shit. Fucking ridiculous. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So then we have, what is the concept world like for people my age then? We have, ours takes a little bit more time, but it's certainly more rewarding. I have to figure out as well as everybody else, it's probably why they have day jobs, what I'm going to do in the meantime while my concepts are forming. I currently have my concepts fully mature, fully formed. So then on top of that, while they're being made manifest, while I'm doing the writing process, the putting pen to paper, the recording process, the using of instruments, the writing of riffs, all that stuff. I have all my own little ancient tricks and secrets about the whole thing that likely, from all the help required from people younger than me, and whatever the hell it is that people older than me are pulling from me, I'll probably likely never get around to the actual mechanics, physics, and nature of whatever. And that affects me very greatly, because then I can't put together any kind of documentary or in the studio process of how I made the album with that going on, with me, with me not focusing on it. Then I have myself not focusing on it, and then I have myself focusing on it. It's just kind of like a mind your business thing. I don't have much of attention that I can spare for anybody older or younger than me. I have to focus on people my age. I can assist in people my age and of any workloads. That's my actual Mr. Meeseeks pitch, sales pitch for Mr. Meeseeks. Got a birthday in the early 90s. Got a heavy. Well, then you already qualified. You're already qualified if you're a 90s baby then. what's your workload? You got a heavy workload, you got a lot to work on, you got a little to work on, doesn't matter. I'll take a look at it, I'll analyze and examine and see how I can help you. Mr. Meeseeks, look at me. So give it some thought, drop a comment, make sure you like, share, subscribe, hit the bell, follow me on the socials. Check out the link in bio. The link tree is up and bumping. My cash tag is also available in X, and my cash tag, though it's not available link in bio, my cash tag's in the bio, so you can send your generous donations to the cash tag. I'll directly receive it in my bank account, help improve the show. Where right now it just kind of looks like I'm going to be requiring someone to give a full-blown overview of what they think about the whole show or something like that, where it is something I've been doing for so long. I know how this should be going down, and this should be going down where you can just look at 1 minute or look at 2 minutes of my show and get the whole entire overview of it. Sad as that is, as well, that is also kind of how it has to be, where in a busy world, someone can only really look at 1 or 2 minutes at a time of someone's creations and then give their opinion. I'm not getting any feedback, so I'm left to believe there's maybe one or I don't know. I'm left to believe very, very little, honestly. So, hey, what a perfect premise, I guess. I don't know. It's matching the premise. The premise is matching. We're in alignment. So here's what we'll do. We'll break apart. I've already basically gone over everything, but we'll break apart and kind of examine and dissect and analyze what is the importance of theming the episode on the previous project then, as it's totally different. Probably just the fact that 2 episodes before this, or well, actually the episode right before this, the focus was on the podcast and how its different forms have an evolutionary process and have a lot of details involved in the fact that the podcast, as far as the podcast goes, is the same exact thing under a different form. The musical projects are each their own separate thing. So this and the concepts are never going to mix. They're never going to mesh together. The twain shall never meet, as they say. And that is, of course, aside from a split, when I'm putting this together into a compilation album, like my most recent release. So, with the current project, where would I go with my next split? Where would I go with, the real question, where would I go with anybody who's actually interested in this shit? I don't know. I would go, the whole world would be my clamshell. That's where I would go with people who are actually interested in this. Right now, there seems to be very little amount of people very interested in this. A lot of people would do that on purpose, or a lot of people would get the message or whatever. I'll leave that for the people younger than me to do that kind of thinking. I'm doing this age people thinking, and then I'll leave the people younger than me to do their thinking of whatever the fuck it is that they think is going on in their little heads. I can't be bothered with it. I can't be bothered with it one bit. It's beyond explicitly stated that everybody's got their frustrations. This is something mentioned by the AI summary. Frustrations and all this other stuff. That's one problem with AI. I'm mentioning it. Is it going to get accurate? It's not a problem with AI. I don't know. Anyway, it seems like I need to have like a red alert button every time I say AI or something like that. It's like, nope, cut off. Don't go there. Off limits. It's like I'm not trying to talk about AI. I'm trying to talk about my musical projects here. And so, I guess that's what I'm getting at. Is just that any notes that you could take, any mental notes, if you just like hearing the sound of my voice, if I provide a essential backdrop for your work day while you're at your work desk, whatever the case may be, I think that I would have to go back to what I was just saying about that 1 minute, 2 minutes is all that anybody's ever looking at anybody's show for. And that's really, excuse me, that's really like, that's not what I'm here for. That's not what I'm doing this for. I'm not doing this so that everybody can do what they're doing for analyzation or scouting stuff out. I think I've even actually stopped scouting or looking for new podcasts. I'm just kind of stuck with what I know. I like what I like. I guess even that doesn't belong to my age group. Even that probably belongs to the people older than me. So, this is a real question. Is this a current crisis and dilemma amongst the whole world where we're all having trouble matching with somebody our own age? Maybe it's a question that'll never be answered. I don't know, but there's certainly very little benefit in me continue babbling for more than 5 minutes about my projects, as I have to have this thing all squared up and queued up and ready for you for honestly listening to other people's podcasts, mainstream or not, whatever the kind of they are. I mean, it's still enjoyment. I'm still enjoying it. I'm getting something out of it, but very little, because I have to provide something that other people are getting something out of, and maintain its structure, the structure of the show. And I'm actually here. I'm actually podcasting. I'm actually talking about something. This is a real podcast. This is a real podcaster. These are real topics and issues being discussed. It's maybe, I could see being realistic, how it's very difficult to discern that with all the other stuff that everybody's always saying, and everything constantly being thrown at you. You know, that's maybe some kind of bullet you have to dodge or something, because people say that, and then, you know, what are the rules exactly of any of this? What are the rules of all of this? I guess a lot of common sense will definitely go. Very little common sense at all definitely go a very long way in most case scenarios. As I could go off on another tangent about how there's something basically complaining about the way that things are in the world today. And why would that not be true if there wasn't such thing as the news and newscasters and just regular talking heads who just provide the news to you? They want to probably divert and avoid this stuff from talking, just basically giving you the news as real journalism or something like that. And then maybe there's some journalistic club that people go in, and then they favor other stuff. I might be really here doing a real podcast and a real podcaster and all that, but I'm not going to be joining any kind of special club, and I'm not in with the popular kids. And to my detriment as well. Rest in peace, Brent Hines. I think I want to do, before I close up, I want to do a couple upcoming episodes that I'm going to let you know about. I've got to do an episode of Brent Hines, I thought, the other day, so I wrote that down, and I'm going to get into that. And as usual, as with most of my content, I do little to no digging for most things. If I do any digging, I bring you along with me, so that it's like, hey, don't Pitiful Spawn me or anything like that. Don't quarantine me off. That's the main gist and conclusion of the previous project. Is it's quarantined off. It's inactive, and it will be inactive. In thinking about this too, I wanted to do a quick reference to Metal Archives. I can't get into Metal Archives until I have my stuff onto Bandcamp, and I can't go onto Bandcamp until I find some sort of photo formatting software to meet their requirements. It's a done deal. It's a no-brainer, and it should be easy peasy lemon squeezy. And in a jiff, I'll have my shit up on Bandcamp for you to buy, and I'll be just throwing up like 50 cents, 25 cents. Name your price. You could put a penny. That's how I would like to have it. But I think that's some kind of glitch in the system. I don't know. I won't speak on that necessarily. But and rapidly closing this up really fast here, while I'm wrapping it up here, the soon-to-be singles on Bandcamp will get me on Metal Archives. Once that's the case, I won't even speak on the shit anymore because it'll be right there on Metal Archives, Pitiful Spawn, inactive, and that's all it will be. Then I can put the fuckery away and put all the fucking childish games and jokes around. Don't Pitiful Spawn me or something like that. You know, if anybody, I'll say it again. This is only the second time saying it after all that. But if anybody has anything to say to me, you can drop a comment, as I would appreciate there to be something actually really there for me to address and something that I can interact with. Maybe I'll go off on another bunch of tangents as a real threat, but I don't have any real threat. I'm not down for that. There's way too much joking around here to be really safe to do much of anything at all. That's the real problem. If there's going to be that much joking around, nothing can be safely done. It still isn't addressed even a long time after. I mean, that's not even a problem. That's like this matter will be resolved for in no time at all. But having everything right there for you on Metal Archives and active Pitiful Spawn, I don't have to speak on it. That's a relief. Now I can actually enjoy it. I can actually enjoy the releases. These are good songs. I'm keeping them that way forever for a reason. Not because they're garbage, but because they're good songs. It's good stuff. And the current project, I mean, what can I speak on the current project? You have to visit this site right here, this YouTube channel right here, and click sub on there. I could always use all the support and feedback on how the current songs and releases that I have out now are doing, as I've got everything on my end done, and I'm not interested in inviting anybody else on the band and creating some kind of band. I mentioned this a couple episodes ago, but that's always an option. Inviting some sort of a new addition to the band and creating a band, always an option. I may not be level-headed enough and trust my judgment enough on those things, and am gaslighted all fucking oblivion, just like anybody and everybody else. But I trust my judgment when it comes to anything musically speaking. When it comes to something musical, especially, and I'm just getting better at it. So the clock's fucking ticking, time's wasting away. I'm just getting better at fucking using proper discretion for fucking musical projects and shit. So that's it. I'm fucking cussing like a sailor. I'm out. The world is fucking doomed.